Good morning. God bless you. Just want to finish the series out on living the transformed life. Coming from Romans chapter 12, verse 1. I beseech you, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your body as a gift. Present your body as a gift. Your body, all your members, your eyes, your ears, your toes, your soul, your spirit, every faculty unto God, wholly acceptable or pleasing unto Him, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Definitely, guys, we have got to change the way we think. We have to change our mind. We have to change what we put in our mind, change how we think. He says present. That has to do with the idea of a gift. The idea of a gift. I'm presenting my body to God. I remember as a little boy, my mom and dad taught me to make, gifts and cards, birthday cards, Christmas cards. And I used to make very good cards. I was very artistic. I could draw a little bit. I could put a card together very well organized. It looked very nice. But one Father's Day or one special occasion, I waited till the last minute. To make a card for my dad. And my dad knew the quality of work I could do. But I just put this card together. And then I just gave it to him. And he looked at it and he was like, this is some chicken crap. This is mess. And he told me off. My dad told me off, let me have it, because I presented something to him that was not quality. And the same idea is with God. We can't give God anything. You can't live a sloppy life before God. We can't just put things together before God. You want to give God our best. Amen. We want to give him the best. We don't want to do this with the Lord. But I want to continue off of the premises of how changing the way we think. I'm going to talk about three things. I'm going to talk about surroundings, about being transformed. I'm going to talk about also when it comes to, I'm still dealing with the mind. Talk about being a Pharaoh child. Then secondly, today I'm going to talk about also transforming. Why is it important to transform off of the movie Transformers? Then thirdly, I'm going to talk about weight loss and how we transform our lives. Or what happens when we transform. A Pharaoh child. What is a Pharaoh child? A Pharaoh child is spelled Feral, child. A Pharaoh child, done a study on this. A Pharaoh child is a child that has been raised up by animals, literally. Most of you have seen the movie Mowgli or the Jungle Book, with the young man as a baby, he was raised by wolves, took on the attributes of a wolf, being around nothing but animals. That is actually based off of a real case study. They're called Pharaoh children. Pharaoh children are children that have completely been isolated from human beings and human interaction as a child, as an infant. And they're raised, these are just very rare cases around the world. They're not necessarily in the U.S. They're really in third world countries like Ukraine and so forth, and Europe and all that other stuff. But when a child is brought up around animals and beasts, they take on the attributes of those animals. Matter of fact, there was one case, and it can be very chronic and very debilitating state. But there was one particular case, and I'll mention a few. There was one particular case of a young man. Parents went off to work every single day, and this young man had nothing to do. And the young man literally stayed at the bottom of the house. They had this chicken coop with just nothing but chickens, just chickens everywhere. Laying eggs. And the boy was pretty much raised in that chicken coop for hours every single day. And what ended up happening, the boy began to imitate and replicate the chickens. Now, this is a boy. He's created as a human being to walk and talk the intellect of a child, the intellect of a human being, the intellect of being creative, the intellect of being decisive. But because, watch this, because he is around chickens 8 hours a day, literally as a child, he's around chickens 8 hours a day. This is what happened. He becomes debilitated. He becomes handicapped. How? He literally begins to start clucking. He begins to start walking like a chicken. His arms begin to deform. He literally starts, moving like a chicken. But this is over time. And he becomes a grown man with a chicken mind. Into it again. He's raised pretty much by chickens because of his parents' neglect. And I want to say something to parents. Some of you parents, your children are acting like animals because you're not raising them. You're not caring for them. You're not nurturing them. You're not teaching them human principles, ethics, etiquette. You're not teaching them financial literacy. So they acting like animals mentally. And some of us, we acting like our surroundings because we're around these surroundings for so long. And that's why Paul says, don't be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. Some of you, you have so much potential, but you're around chickens all the time. You're around chickens, got a chicken mind. This man became a grown man with a chicken mind. He could not speak human language, regular language. Even when they tried to rehabilitate him, it was just daunting. He was able to speak, he did recuperate, but it was just not the same. He was too handicapped by that traumatic experience. And it can be traumatizing because they're raised in these environments around these animals and they never learn how to be a human. And Paul says, don't be conformed to this world. And some of you got a chicken mind. You have the eyes of a human, you have the brain of a human, you have the mind of a Christian, you have some of you, you're saved, but you got a chicken spirit. You're afraid to take risk. You're afraid, just a chicken. You can't fly, and some of you are eagles, but you was raised around chickens. You have all the equipment and tools to fly like an eagle, but you've been around chickens all your life. So you think you can't fly because they can't fly. This was a child. Let me say again, this was a child that took on all the attributes of a chicken. He was eating with his mouth, pecking like a chicken. Guys, you have got to be careful of your surroundings. Some of you have so much potential spiritually, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, but the people you're around are morphing and shaping your mentality. Some of you, you're supposed to be millionaires, but you're around financial chickens. You're around financial chickens. What's a financial chicken? Someone that's afraid to take risk. You will never read any book about a millionaire, and they will not tell you have to take risks. You cannot be wealthy with timidity. You can't be wealthy being afraid to take risks or make investments or take a step of faith. Some of you, you have a chicken spirit. You have a chicken mind. You think like a chicken, and therefore you're gonna always be a chicken inwardly. God don't want you being no chicken. He don't want you being chicken. He wants you to fly. He wants you to be better. But you can't keep hanging around the same people constantly thinking you're going to change. If you're around losers, you're going to be the third and fifth loser. If you're around people that smoke weed, you're going to be smoking weed after a while. If you're around people that smoke dope, you're going to be smoking dope too. You can have all the attributes of a human, but if you're around chickens, you're going to act like one. You're going to talk like one. You're going to look like a man, but you're going to talk like a chicken. You're going to think like a chicken. You're going to behave like a chicken. You're going to behave like your surroundings. And some of you look like you're saved. You gave your life to Jesus, but you don't act like Jesus. You don't talk like Jesus. You don't walk like Jesus because you're always constantly in association with worldly people. And those worldly people have such a negative, empowering impact over you. Can't nobody tell you're human. And it's a handicap. Some of you, you're spiritually handicapped. You need that handicap sticker when you go to church. You really do. You need a handicap sticker to let people know you're not normal, or something has decapitated you, or you're incapacitated to some degree, mentally or spiritually. The second case was a young lady. Her parents, neglected her. Parents neglected her, and she grew up around. She grew up in the backyard of the home, around the dogs. And so this young lady, maybe in her teens, became debilitated, and so she started walking like a dog, literally barking like a dog, acting like a dog, literally, in Ukraine, I believe, literally acting like a dog, a wild animal, because her parents didn't raise her. Her parents neglected her. Matter of fact, even I believe her parents were alcoholics. And the child was barking like a dog. Literally, it's documented. And some of you, you're acting like dogs. You're acting like your environment because you've been neglected. See, when you neglect transforming the way you think, you'll act like the people you're mostly around. And that's why a lot of our young people, they're acting like dogs. They got a dog mentality. They dog people out. You got to be careful who you're around, because that will dictate how you act. The Bible says evil association corrupts good morals. Paul was talking about outside influence. These were false teachers that were telling the Corinthians that there was no resurrection. And with that came moral decline. And some of them were falling away from the faith because they were associating themselves with false teachers or people that believe different than them. You got to be careful who you associate yourself with. Some of you, you're not seeing the change you want to see because you're not changing the people you're around. I was on a live webinar the other day, and this prophetess said, "You'll never change." As a matter of fact, I'll tell you what she said. She said she was addicted to smoking marijuana. She was addicted to smoking marijuana. And in order to get away from that marijuana mentality and to stop and to be consistent, she had to leave her best friend. Best friend introduced her to marijuana. So she had to leave her best friend. She had to quit her friends and stop hanging around them. And she said, some of us want to change, but you'll never change if you keep being around people that don't want to change. And that's how some of you are. You want to see change in your spiritual walk, in your mental walk, in your natural life, but you want to keep associating with people that don't want to change. You will never change if you don't change your environment and the people you're around. That goes for finances. That goes for health, physical. That goes for spiritual. Some of you, you're around spiritually out of shape people. You have got to change your environment. You have got to change your environment. Now, as I transition, I'm going to talk about Transformers. Why is changing the mind so important? When you look at the movies Transformers, I think they did like 5 movies. But the gist is this: they're an alien group that came from another world. And when they come, they're different. They're just the alien. You got Decepticons and you got Autobots. Autobots are the good guys. Decepticons are the bad ones, trying to take over the world, destroy the world, basically. And what they do is, watch this here. They scan cars. They'll scan a car or a helicopter, and they'll become that helicopter. They'll transform, and the purpose of the transformation is so they can blend in. When you watch the movie, you see Bumblebee as a bug, as a car, all ugly and dirty and stuff like that. And the young man didn't know he was an Autobot because he had took Bumblebee had initially took the form of a car, so no one knew there were Transformers on the earth because they all took the form of something familiar. And so the young man, when he sees this transformation, he's shocked. It's an alien. It's an alien. Didn't know. He was riding in a car, and he didn't know it was an alien until it transformed. That's powerful, because that's how some of us are spiritually. Until you change this up here and change your environments, you will never transform. And some of us, you blend in with everybody else. You blend in with your friends. You blend in with your family members. And because you haven't changed the way you think, you haven't changed your mentality, you haven't changed your concept, you're not being holy, you're not living holy, nobody can tell you're from another world. Nobody can tell that you're a child of God. Nobody can tell that you're saved. Nobody can tell that you're holy. Nobody can tell you look like every other Camaro. You look like every other helicopter. You look like every other person. You talk like them. You walk like them. Why? Because you haven't had a transformation. And until you have that transformation, some people will never see God. They will never see God in you. They will never see God through you. They will never see the power of God. So, guys, we must definitely change the way we think so people can see that we are not of this world. We are peculiar people, holy nation, royal priesthood. And we got to give praise and thanks, and we got to change the way we think. Also, with that, everybody that's from an outside world is not good. You got Autobots and Decepticons. You know what I'm saying? And the difference between the Autobot and Decepticon is their motive and their desires. Just saying it like that. Lastly, I want to say this. If we're going to live a transformed life, we have got to get rid of the weight. We got to change the way we think. Years ago, I started doing a weight loss goal. I was 220 pounds. I lost like 15, maybe 18 pounds. And the transformation was great. People noticed it. People noticed the weight loss. And why I'm saying this, because Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 says, we have a cloud of witnesses, and let us lay aside every weight and sin that easily besets us, and run this race with endurance. Paul says, lay aside every weight. That's a Greek term that it is literally pronounced ogkos. O-G-K-O-S, ogkos. It is what does this have to do with transformation? That is the literal term for when athletes in Paul's day, when they would try out for the Olympics or a game competition, that's the term they would use when they're training, that they would cut body fat to be lean as possible, to be as lean as possible, to have as little body fat as possible so they can be effective in their performance. Because too much body fat can affect your performance. Okay? Too much body fat can affect your performance. It is noted that 5 pounds of extra weight will slow a racehorse down. Just 5 pounds. And some of us were slow. We're moving. We're spiritually slow because we got extra weight we don't need in our life. Some of you have extra weight in your life that you're not getting rid of, that you're keeping on, and it's slowing you down spiritually, mentally, emotionally. Some of you have weight and it's slowing you down financially and physically. You have to get rid of that fat. You have to get rid of that extra spiritual, mental, financial fat in your life so you can be effective. Why is fat so powerful? Because I'll tell you this. Excuse me. My cousin Scooter, my auntie Ivy's son, when he graduated high school, when Scooter stayed to the house, me and Scooter went swimming. I was a pretty fast guy, I'll say. I could beat my cousin swimming, but I never swam against Scooter. And me and Scooter raced, and Scooter was very lean. He's still very lean. I had at that time I had 30 pounds extra on him, but it wasn't all muscle. Extra weight, just extra weight. Right? That was fat. It was fat, but I still had muscle. I still worked out, but that 30 pounds slowed me down. And what ended up happening is he would race and swim through that water like a dolphin. And he's blowing me, dusting me. And I'm sitting up here putting all I got. And he's just flowing through that water like a little guppy. Just like a little shark. And he beat me. I say, man, my goodness. And he said, Twan, I wasn't even going fast. I'm serious. It was like night and day. But that's the power of extra weight, it slows you down. That's why when athletes are training, they try to get to the lowest body fat they can, build as much muscle, but cut that fat down because that fat affects your performance. Scooter was doing the same thing I was doing, but he was more effective because he had less weight. Some of you, your prayer life will be more effective if you got rid of the weight. Your worship will be more effective if you got rid of the weight. Your ministry will be more effective if you just got rid of the weight. You can do the same thing with less weight and be more effective. Some of you, it's hard right now. It's really hard for you to live a godly life. It's really hard for you to do what God has called you to do and to run this race, and it's hindering you because you have that extra baggage. I'm going to ask you a question. What extra baggage do you have that's slowing you down? What's impeding and hindering your ability to perform at optimal level? You want to perform at optimal level. It's time out for mediocre. We can't be mediocre anymore. We have to perform it at our optimal level. What's impeding your progress? What's impeding it? What's hindering it? Paul said, lay it aside. Get rid of that extra baggage. Some of you is people. Some of you, your hindrance is people you're around. It's your environment. Some of you, it's your mindset. Some of you got too much weight in your mind. Get rid of some of it's spiritual. You got too much unforgiveness weighing you down, bitterness, hatred, malice, fornication, lying. Some of this stuff, all this stuff weigh you down. It slow you down. And some of you can't even serve God. Some of you know what? There are some people that are so obese, have accumulated so much fat over the years. They're morbidly obese. It's atrocious. I've seen documents of people 500 pounds or over, almost 1,000 pounds. They can't feed themselves. They can't walk. They can't survive. They can't do anything for themselves because they're morbidly obese. And it's deadly. Some of you are so spiritually obese, overweight, that you're going to die spiritually. You got so much weight, is going to cause a spiritual cardiac arrest. You got so much weight on you. You can't move. You can't talk. You can't pray. You can't seek God's face. You can't go to church because you're weighed down by everything in life. Everything has you weighed down. You're weighed down by relationships, weighed down by finances, weighed down by distractions. You are immobilized, you're paralyzed, and you're inefficient and you're ineffective. And watch this. Those type of people, other people have to do everything for them. And some of you, that's how you are spiritually. Because you won't get rid of the weight, people got to do stuff for you all the time. They got to feed you spiritually. They got to drag you to church. They got to drag you to ministry. They got to drag this. They got to do everything for you. And what you notice about those documents is this. The doctor tells them, if you don't lose weight, you're going to die. Every time I see the document, the doctor tells them, if you don't lose weight, you're going to die, both in the natural and spiritual. And some of y'all, you need to lose weight, both naturally and spiritually. Some of you need to cut that fat off of your life so you can live a better life. And when you see these transformations of people, and it's not easy. And the doctor always says this, and this is just a fact. They got like that because they ate like that. And some of us, we look like what we eat. We look like sin. We act like sin. We talk like sin because that's all we eat. We eat sin all the time. We eat the world. We look like the world. We talk like the world because that's what we're putting in our spirit, in our mind, in our soul. So, therefore, when I went on my weight loss journey, I had like 203 pounds. And I put up a old pic, 220, and a new pic, 203. And when I posted it, people saw a drastic difference. And not just in the picture, but in my everyday appearance. People noticed that I lost the weight. People say, boy, you're getting skinny. I wasn't really trying to get skinny. I was just cutting the fat. And when you start transforming the way you think, people will notice it. When you start hanging around different types of people, people will notice how you talk. Your talk is gonna change. The way you conduct yourself will be noticeable. You lose 20 pounds, it's noticeable. You lose 30 pounds, it's noticeable. And there are things now I don't wear because I lost so much weight. I can't wear it. It's too big for me. I can't wear it. And when you start transforming the way you think, old habits and addictions you used to have and mindsets and people used to have, you won't wear them anymore. You won't associate yourself with it anymore. You won't put it on anymore. You won't even go to it anymore because you're not attracted to it. You're not used to it. It doesn't fit anymore. There was a time, and you got to use the equipment. See, the problem is some of us, we want the results, but we don't want to do the work. See, here's what I was doing. I was working out every single day, 5 to 6 days a week. I was tracking what I was putting in my body. I was being intentional with my nutrition and diet and what I was putting in my body. So now what I do physically is being accommodated by what I do in the kitchen. And they always say this about workout, about exercise. You want to get results. You can't outwork a bad diet. And some of you, you're going to church, you're doing all the physical exercise, but your diet is bad. Your diet is bad. They say you can't get a six-pack in the gym, you get a six-pack in the kitchen. Why? Here's the thing about fat. Fat covers your muscles. Fat covers the muscles. So when I start taking off my shirt, I start seeing more definition. Lord have mercy. You won't see a six-pack at 20% body fat. You have to at least get to at least 12% body fat or lower. It depends on your body composition. That's why some people can't see God in you, because you got too much weight on you. The more fat you have, the less defined you look, or the less defined you are. And you can't see the six-pack because the fat is over the six-pack or so watch, this fat covers the muscle. Some of you, the weight that you have is covering God. People can't see the love in you because it's covered. Cut the fat off and people will see the love. Cut the unforgiveness off. Cut the lying off. Cut the lust off. And people will see holiness and righteousness in your life. But that's going to kind of come with diligence, consistency, praying every day, fasting, separating yourself from bad habits and bad addictions, bad environments, even people, bad influences. Renewing your mind. When you do something long enough and consistent enough, you'll see results. You'll see it in your waistline. You'll see it in how you talk and how you behave. Not only just spiritually, guys, but financially, mentally, emotionally. Some of you have the potential to be a millionaire or very wealthy, but you keep hanging around financially obese people. They don't track what they spend. They don't track how they spend. They don't track their income. They're not improving. They're not getting better. They're not looking at opportunities and so much more. Please stop being around people that are mediocre, that don't want to change. And if you want to see change in your life, you're going to have to track what you do. You're going to have to maintain what you do. You're going to have to monitor your progress, monitor yourself. Guys, monitor what you think. Monitor how you think. Monitor what you put in your spirit and maintain it. Don't stop. Because I had stopped and I actually put the weight back on. I put the weight back on because I stopped doing what I did. Some of us, we don't have a spiritual relapse. Some of us, we relapse because we stopped doing what kept us. We stopped reading our Bible. We stopped going to church. We stopped doing morning devotion. We stopped praying. We stopped worshiping. We stopped fasting. So we stopped seeing results and we start returning to old and bad habits because we didn't do maintenance. It's not enough to get saved. It's not enough to give your life to Jesus, have the Holy Ghost. I got the Holy Ghost too, but I don't relapse sometimes. I have relapsed into some bad habits because I didn't maintain. I didn't make cognizant, intentional decisions to be consistent with my spiritual diet and mindset and spiritual workout. And I'll say this to conclude. Paul says to the Corinthians, I believe it's Corinthians, but he says I believe it's Corinthians, put on the whole armor of God. On the whole armor of God. One of the armors that Paul was talking about was the helmet of salvation. The Roman soldier had a special helmet. It was made of steel, but it came down to the neck, and it covered the neck, all of this area. All this. Why? Because there were certain enemies to the Roman soldier that carried an axe, a big axe. And this particular enemy would literally try to cut their head off and try to cut it off from the back. Because of the helmet covering it, if they would come on that, they wouldn't be able to cut their head off. I'm going to tell you this about spiritual warfare. Satan only has access to what is not covered. If you don't cover your mind with right thinking, with safe thinking, protect the way you think, Satan always have access to your neck. He always have access to your thoughts. He has access to the way you think, how you think, and what you do. Some people have lost their head spiritually and mentally. They lost their mind because they didn't protect it. Let me tell you one thing about spiritual warfare. You can rebuke the devil all you want. I'm telling you, you don't go to war without being equipped. Why would a Roman soldier go to battle without his helmet on? That's what some of us are doing. We're living our everyday life without covering our mind, without safeguarding our thinking. You got to safeguard. You got to be careful what you put in your head, in your mind, in your spirit. Because if you're not covered, Satan has access to that area. The enemy will have access to whatever's not covered. Make sure you cover your mind with the right things. Cover your mind with God's word. Cover your mind with the blood. Cover your mind with positive things. The helmet of salvation. This helmet comes from salvation. Some of you, your mind ain't covered because you're not saved. But here's the thing about it. You can have the equipment and not use it either. Because you can have a gym membership and not use it and be inactive. And not be active. Some of us, we got all the equipment, but we're not using the equipment. We're not taking advantage of all the amenities and blessing God has given us, so we don't see the results we want to see. I know people that have gym memberships and don't even go to the gym. Just spending money every month. Some of us just spending time, just spending money and efforts, but you're not using what God gave you. You're not using the Bible. You're not using His Word. You're not taking advantage of the Holy Spirit. You're not taking advantage of your relationship with God. You're abusing or misusing or neglecting your relationship with God, so you don't see the results you want to see, and people definitely don't see the results. They don't see that you're saved or Christian. They don't even know the difference. You know, some people just say, I go to LA Fitness. You don't work out. Honestly, there are women, people I can look at and I can tell they work out. I can tell. There are people in my family that know when I'm working out and when I'm not working out. I got a cousin years ago. She touched my arm and she said, "Boy, you ain't been working out," because it wasn't firm like it usually is. When you work out, your muscle becomes firm and tight. And some of us, our spiritual life is flabby. Our spiritual lives are flabby because we're not consistent and we're not working out our faith. We're not working out our morals. And people can tell. If you want people to see God in you, you got to be consistent. And if you want to see results, you got to be consistent. People can tell if we're working this thing out or not. It's not enough to go to church. It's not enough to be on the praise and worship team. We have to exercise our faith. Exercise this life. Live this life to the fullest. Be consistent. Change the way we think. Change our environments, because you don't want to be a full-grown man with a chicken mind either. Cover your mind. Be intentional. Be consistent. Be consistent. Don't stop, because you don't want to relapse. Okay. God bless you. I love you. I enjoyed this series. Guys, you can live a transformed life. But you have to be intentional. Set out a plan. Set goals for your spiritual life. Set spiritual goals. Hey, I want to be here in 3 months. I want to get rid of this addiction or that addiction or this or that or whatever. Set goals and strategize how you're going to do it. I'm going to pray every day. I'm going to fast 3 times a week. I'm going to be intentional. I'm going to profess with my mouth I'm healed and delivered and set free. I no longer cuss. I no longer do this. I'm going to change my environment. Set goals, spiritual goals, and say, God, help me. Overall, ask God for help. Ask God to help you. God wants us to ask Him for help. Ask Him for His power. You know, the Bible says in Acts 2, He says, when the Holy Ghost comes upon you, you shall receive power. That word power is dunamai. It's a Greek term that means ability. In other words, giving someone the ability to perform or do something. The Holy Spirit will give you the ability to transform the way you think. The Holy Spirit will give you the ability to do what you can't do. So trust God, believe God, and you can transform the way you live. But you got to start with your mind. God bless you. God loves you. In Jesus' name, amen.